Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Alina Islam, and I'm a mining analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. I'm very excited to present Globex Mining to you today. They hold a large portfolio of exploration and development stage projects and royalty interests predominantly in Eastern Canada. To give you an overview of the company as well as discuss upcoming plans, we have with us David Christie, President and COO. Once the presentation is over, we will conclude with a Q&A session, so please put your questions into the chat box and we'll get through as many as we can at the end. Before we get started, I do need to mention the fine print. For Globex Mining, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this webinar. Please read the cautionary note on page 2 of the Globex Mining corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this webinar does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Globex Mining specific disclosures. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Dave. Please take it away.
Thanks so much, Lena. My name is David Christie. I am the President and COO of Globex. I started this position on August 1st. Prior to that, I was the VP of Corporate Development for about 6 months. I will go through my background a little later, but I want you to look at Globex as a value play with huge leverage to the gold price, but also to other metals and minerals. We're going to go through that diversification and what we do for a living here and what our business is all about as we move through this presentation. I will be making some forward-looking statements. Have you read that at your leisure. So what is Globex? We are basically sort of 4 different companies wrapped up into one. We are an explorer. We explore and we acquire properties. We generate projects, so we're a project generator. We're also a property bank. We have a lot of properties and we like to option or sell those to other companies and retain a royalty, which makes us a royalty company. So we generate royalties in the end is what we do. Everything we do sort of ends up with the result of generating royalties. We have an experienced board management team, a team of seasoned geologists and financial professionals, focused property acquisitions and established mining camps along what we think are prolific gold structures or metal structures. 40 of the properties we have and over 60 of the properties have either historic 43-101 resources or historic resources. A number of our projects are in the PEA stage or higher. Some of them are in the feasibility stage. We're in tier 1 just jurisdictions like Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nevada, Arizona. Our balance sheet is extremely strong. We have over $35 million in cash and marketable securities. Capital structure is very tight. We have no warrants outstanding. Share count is very low. We don't issue equity. We make money. So, we option or sell properties and we get royalty payments, and that's how we make our money. The company is transaction focused. We acquire properties all the time, and we improve those properties and sell them to others. So it's quickly on our cap structure, 56 million shares outstanding, very low number. About 12.71% of that's owned by management. That's Jack Stock, who's the founder of the company, and his family. When you look in the lower left-hand corner here, you see our balance sheet strength, over $35 million on our balance sheet. About 26% of that is cash. 29% of that is fixed income securities. 32% is senior precious metal equities like Agnico Eagle, Pan American, Alamos Gold. So very liquid and very senior precious metals, and they've been doing extremely well. And then about 13% of it is junior mining equities. And most of this comes through payments for properties. We tend to get cash and share payments for our properties when we option them or sell them. We're listed on the Canadian TSX exchange, the main board, listed in Germany on the Frankfurt and a number of other exchanges, and of course on the OTCQX. There's our management team. Jack is the founder of this company. He's built this company up from scratch from day one. He continues to be very active acquiring properties. We'll talk more about what we do that way. I'm the president and COO. I have 39 years experience in the mining and finance world. I was a geologist for many years, and then an equity analyst with TD and Scotia. I managed money with Dundee. I was a past CEO of a company called Eagle Hill Exploration, which we did a 5-way merger to create Osisko Mining, which was recently bought by Goldfields. I also worked on and created Orford Mining, and that one was taken over by Alamos Gold this past spring of 2024. So what do we do? So we acquire properties, and we acquire the properties through staking or acquisition. We tend to acquire properties when they're in metals when they're out of favor, like we bought antimony assets in New Brunswick when no one cared about antimony, and now we've got both of those optioned out. So we specialize in those kind of acquisitions. We stake every day, all year long. We're always staking claims. We upgrade the assets through exploration and other input into the properties. We create revenue by doing this, by selling or optioning out those properties, and eventually through royalties on those properties. So we like to get income, and that means we have less share dilution than your typical exploration company. Actually, we have zero. We have no debt, and less shareholder risk because we don't dilute our shareholders, and therefore we're always increasing our property value. So when you look at the number of properties we have across Canada and North America, you can see on the map in the upper left-hand corner there, we have properties in Nevada, Arizona, Washington State, as well as Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, across Quebec. But in the center set map, you can see the properties we have in the Abitibi district, which is one of the most prolific metal districts in the world, predominantly in Quebec, but also in Ontario. And then in Saxony, Germany, we own a royalty on a silver deposit. Just going back to the statement I made a few minutes ago about being on major structures that are gold-bearing structures. So if you look on this map, you can see the Cadillac Tectonic Zone cutting through the page, and you can see all our royalties and properties along that structure. We are quite impressive as far as the portfolio we have along that structure, and this has done us well over the years as far as selling and optioning those properties, and we think it's going to do well as far as royalties in the future. Number of properties we've had, this is the past 20 years. So 20 years ago, we had about 50 properties, a couple royalties, some option agreements, but mostly just properties. And now we have 107 royalties, 8 option agreements, and about 150 properties still under our own 100% ownership. When you look at our commodity mix, more than 50% of our properties are precious metals, as you can see on this page here. And then another 30% on both royalties and property side are base metals, so copper, lead, zinc, nickel. And then the other two categories are specialty minerals and industrial minerals. And this runs the gamut from manganese to magnesium to talc to silica to dolomite. So basically anything on the periodic table or anything useful, we will stake those claims and find ways of marketing those products. So we have a very diversified portfolio. It gives us a lot of bulletproofness when it comes to commodities exposure. Looking at some of the deals we have done in the past few years, Agnico Eagle has a property they call Wasamac. We sold the left-hand side or the west side of that, which was a Francoeur-Arnfield project to them for $15 million. We just did a deal on our Virgin Mountain rare earth project down in Arizona to a group called Arizona Passage Heavy Rare Earths. We did a deal with Bria Resources for our Devil's Pike antimony gold project in New Brunswick. That's just a few of the projects we've done deals on recently. And then you can see some other projects we have across Quebec and Ontario, such as the Scandium project in Quebec and the Elrich gold project in Quebec. So as I mentioned, we are transaction focused. This is how we create value in this company. And we have, this year to date, we have already staked over 235 claims across the province of Quebec and Ontario. And we continue to do that every day. So it's actually higher than that because this past couple of weeks, we've staked more. We've done 3 new option agreements this year so far, and we're working on others. We bought back royalties on 3 properties we own from IAMGOLD to extinguish those royalties. So $350,000 for that. We consolidated ownership on the Black Cliff property. We had a JV partner there. We bought them out, So we now own 100% of that. It has a historic resource of 100,000 ounces. So that's pretty good purchase for 100,000 ounces. And it did a bridge financing recently with a company starting up a Chilean copper asset. So, $350,000 of debenture financing, we get that back. Plus, we keep a ROFR on a royalty on that project. So when we look at some of the names that we're involved with, these are just some of the partners we have on our 107 royalties and 8 option agreements. From Agnico Eagle to Toma Gold to Radisson to Bria to Emperor, some pretty good names and some pretty newsy names that you see out there every day putting out news. So in this presentation, I'm going to run through sort of 3 segments of our business. First of all, the 100% owned projects we have and the exploration we're doing on those. Then I'm going to run through the royalties we have, and I'll look at a few of those and what's happening on those projects. And then I'm going to look at a few of the option agreements we have and what's happening on those projects, just to give you a flavor of the kind of excitement that's happening within our portfolio of assets. So first of all, on the 100% owned projects, we have a project called Central Cadillac Wood, where our Ironwood gold deposit sits. And last year in 2024, we drilled 19 holes on this project. We published a brand new 43-101 resource in 2025 of 108,000 ounces. And we also have a 8,000 ounces in inferred category on that same deposit. We're currently assessing the next steps for Ironwood, and we'll reveal those as soon as we're ready. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Lyndhurst is a base metal project. We have 100% ours. It sits just north of the Destor-Porcupine Break in Quebec. It's had historic production of high-grade copper, 1.93% copper and silver. We have a very strong geophysical geological target there. We're excited to drill. We're going to put 2 to 3 holes into it, drill about 1,500 meters, and that's going to happen in the coming weeks. Rouen Merger, another 100% owned project. This is in Quebec as well. Sits right next door to Radisson's O'Brien project, where they've just raised $25 million to drill 50 to 60,000 meters of drilling. We are going to drill the East O'Neill showing there, 7.08 grams per ton over 10.727 meters. So when we look at the Central Cadillac Wood project, which is all this project here, it sits right next door to the Radisson O'Brien project over here. And they are drilling this zone here, which is the Pichet group, which runs right through our project and theirs. The Ironwood deposit, which we have, sits to the north of that. And that's where we spent most of our time in recent years. We are currently assessing the viability of drilling more holes along the Pichet group on strike to the Radisson drilling that's going on. And that's what we'll be doing in the near future. While we continue to push the Ironwood project forward by working on environmental testing, etc. So we're currently getting quotes for environmental testing for our project to move that along. Sorry. Yeah. So when you look at the Rouen Merger project, it sits next door to the Hiva Hosca deposit that Hecla Mining has, about 1.6 million ounces of gold sitting over here just to the east of us. You can see when you get past our boundary, very few drill holes. The green dots are all drill holes, very few drill holes. We are going to drill the East O'Neill showing, which sits right here. And this showing has up to 7 grams over 10 meters, which we think is quite exciting. And that's going to happen in the next couple of months. Lyndhurst, again, in the next couple of months, we will be drilling right here where the red circle is. It's an untested EM anomaly. It's on strike to some mineralization in a very highly altered felsic unit, very similar to the kind of thing you see at the Kidd Creek deposit near Timmins. So we're excited to get in here and drill this. You can see some of the values across this property. There is base metals here. We know we're in the right geology, so we're excited to get in there and drill these holes. Looking at some of our royalties, I put 3 gold royalties on this page because gold's up to record highs. So the Kewagama New Alger royalties, 2% NSR on Kewagama and 1% NSR on New Alger. This sits right on the Radisson O'Brien property where they're spending $25 million they just raised, and they're drilling 50 to 60,000 meters of drilling. Their PEA that they put out this year showed that 22% of the ounces recoverable report to our Globex Kewagama royalty. We think that the resources there is going to increase quite a bit as they include all the drilling they've done over the past couple of years in their new resource. Parbec just put out Renforth put out a new resource on the Parbec royalty, 29% increase in resources there to almost 400,000 ounces. And then we've got Cartier Resources working on their Cadillac project, which is our Nordo West, East, and North royalties. 100,000 meter drill program to be completed over the next 18 months. This is huge for us. A lot of those drill holes will be on our properties. They've already got 2.35 million ounces there, and some of that sits on our Nordo West project. Before we move through those projects, I want you to look at the Bell Mountain, Nevada project. This is where we have a 3% GMR in Nevada. These guys are going to bring this into production in the next year, and there's 55,000 ounces of gold there that'll get mined. And we have that 3% GMR there, so that means significant cash flow to Globex in the coming year. So this is a project that's going to production, is going to start to produce cash for us. So when we look at the Kewagama and New Alger royalties, they sit on basically the west side and east side of the O'Brien project that Radisson is drilling. The Central Cadillac Wood project sits right next door to them. You can see the yellow band, which is the Cadillac Break, and the Pichet group runs right through all of our properties. So we think, the drilling that's going to happen on the O'Brien project, which sits over top of two of our royalties, as well as our assessment of the Pichet group cutting through our properties, can be very exciting for Globex in the next year. You can see here on this long section, the red line represents the line dividing the O'Brien property where we have no royalty and the Kewagama royalty to the east, or right on your map. Up to 8.41 grams per ton over 2.2 meters, 14.4 grams over 1.2 meters in deep drilling that they've been doing on the Kewagama royalty. We've done very little deep drilling on our Wood Central Cadillac property to the east, down to maybe 300, 400 meters. So this is exciting to see what happens as they move closer to our boundary and we start to assess our property on the other side of the boundary. Parbec continue to increase the resources here, so we're excited to see what happens here as they move forward. This sits right next door to the Canadian Malartic gold mine in the Cadillac region. Again, the Nordo West project, we have a 2 to 3% GMR on Globex royalty claims here, and we have quite a large swath of royalty claims. They're going to drill 100,000 meters. They will be drilling quite a few holes on our property. We talked to the CEO last week, and he basically told us there'll be a lot of holes on our property. So this is exciting for Globex as well to increase the value of our properties there. Quickly, I'm going to look at three options that we have for partners. You can sort of get the theme here that there's a lot of money being spent on our assets without us spending money, which is sort of the name of the game as far as how we make money and how we do business and how we increase the value on our properties. Duquesne West, Emperor Gold is the option E. They have doubled the resource there to 1.46 million ounces, grading 1.69 grams per ton. They continue to drill. They have an 8 to 10,000 meter program to be done by sometime next year. And they just finished the financing. Devil's Pike, this is being operated by Bria. This is a new option agreement this year. They intend to mine the gold deposit that sits there while they explore the antimony. And they've got some pretty darn good antimony numbers they just put out this week. And then Bald Hill, Antimony Resources, they're drilling 6,000 meters. That'll be done by the end of the year, and they're going to put out a new resource early in 2026. This is the Duquesne West project where Emperor is. We should get about $1 million payment from them anytime now, as well as 3 million shares. This is the Devil's Pike project. You can see some of the fabulous numbers they're getting on the antimony side. 27.6% antimony, 57% antimony in grab samples at surface on the Bond Road anomaly here. And then on the Vale Road gold deposit, they're getting some new numbers there too, 9.48 grams per ton, 1.47 grams per ton. So this is exciting stuff. So we're looking forward to seeing these guys continue to work this property, and it's brand new. This option agreement is not that old. And then last but not least is the Antimony Resources property, Bald Hill, another option agreement, up to 14.91% antimony over 3 meters, 28.76% antimony over 1.7 meters, some really good grades. They're working on a resource. That should be done by early next year, and that'll put some value on this project. So when you look at all the projects going on here, there's a lot of catalysts coming. So first of all, from catalysts from royalty properties, Brunswick, who have the Mirage Lithium prospect, which we have a royalty on, will be putting out their maiden resource by the end of this year. Cerrado Gold is going to put out the feasibility study on Mount Sorcier iron ore deposit by early 2026. This will be huge for Globex because you'll be able to see the value in the 1% GMR we have on that project. 2026, Lincoln's Bell Mountain project will go to production. And then there's a number of ongoing drill programs, which will be continuous news coming from. The Radisson on their O'Brien project, where we have 2 royalties. Cartier on the Cadillac project, where we have a number of royalty claims. Toma Gold on the Chibougamau West Block. Then looking at the 100% owned projects, as I mentioned, Rouen Merger, we're going to drill. Lyndhurst Copper, we're going to drill. Corville, we're doing an IP survey. And then we're going to put out plans for our Central Cadillac Wood Gold Project exploration and our Ironwood Gold deposit progress. So that'll all be news in the coming year. And then, of course, from our option properties, I just mentioned Antimony Resources with a new maiden resource on the antimony resource there. Ongoing drilling on the Emperor Duquesne West property, Toma Gold and Lac Gillam, Electrometals on Fabi Bay, Magusi, and Bria on the Devil's Pike. So lots of news coming. It should be a very exciting next 12 months for us. And just summing up the company quickly, very tight capital structure, history of minimum stock dilution. I think you'll see this is a company you'll see is very smart with its money, never issues stock, and has done a great job preserving shareholder wealth. Experienced fiscal prudent management and board, income from royalties and options. Just to quickly mention, we tend to do gross metal royalties, which means there's no deductions that come out of our royalties, unlike an NSR where there's deductions before you get paid. Ours is straight off the top, 3% of production. We have no debt, very strong balance sheet, and we own all our assets, including our offices. We are well positioned on major gold localizing structures such as the Cadillac and Dester Porcupine Breaks with property and our very large royalty portfolio. We can execute exploration programs extremely quickly with our fully functioning and staffed exploration office. Don't need to raise any capital. And of course, we're in very low political risk places in the world, such as North America, Ontario, Quebec, Nevada, Arizona, and Saxony, Germany.